Well, after a series of mistakes and complications, the my model of Brunel's Great Eastern, designed to be run on invisible track in Trainz, is now more or less ready for beta testing. So I thought you could have a look at it. A number of issues arose actually, even when I got her into Trainz. The reflection on the surface of the water, if you have a look over here, you can see the reflection of the various models there, and they all work perfectly okay, but for this, for some reason, I just couldn't get the reflection to work properly. First of all, it was only reflecting the I had the hull and the sails and that, but the lifeboats were connected using attachment points, as was the bogie. There was a bogie for the propellers and most of the for the paddles and most of the paddle boxes, and also for the propeller, and that was all that was showing up in the reflection, although the whole model was there. So what I've done is I've removed the propeller completely. It was below the waterline anyway, and I put the lifeboats on reduced polys actually into the main mesh, and indeed all of the paddle boxes. So the only things which are separate as a bogie are the paddle wheels. So let's put them in motion, and they're set to turn quite slowly as it builds up speed. You'll see. Now what was beyond me was to bring in a splash effect there, or a bow wave there. I don't know how to do that. So if anybody's got any bright ideas how to do that, then please let me know, because I'd be interested in adding that to the Great Eastern. But otherwise, there she is as a low detail. I really do stress she's a low detail model, designed just to have, you know, in the harbour, or you can put some invisible track down and have her trolling right out to sea, and heading right out and turning. She will turn on quite a sharp circle. The bogies are set, obviously the first bogie, or one of the bogies, the main bogie, is the paddle wheels. There's an invisible one about here and another invisible one about here. Don't put her on very sharp curves of track, because she will derail and probably sink. So so there we are. I mean, at the front here, that was a bit of a fun and games getting this right. These are the actual anchors. There's two on each side. This is where the anchor chains come out, and there would have been anchor chains looping up, but they made so many polys I just dumped them. Similarly, I'm not quite sure what those are. They seem to be lines for, that's where the lines for the when she's anchored, also additional lines come out there. So in the static version, which I will do, this is obviously the one set as a locomotive. She'll have no sails, there'll be no smoke. She'll just be a static version. Nothing will move. As far as the smoke is concerned, well, I'm stuck with Trainz's brilliant wind, which is completely irrational. I cannot set direction. You can't set the direction of the wind in Trainz, which is a great shame. Which means the smoke blows this way, whereas the sails are blowing that way. I suppose I could alter the smoke so that it actually comes out that way, but it looks rather odd. But then it does look odd in the pictures of her at sea, but it's just sort of almost counterintuitive. I've really reduced any detail as much as I possibly can. If you decide to use the Great Eastern in your layout, then what I think you need to do, what I think you need to do is to let's just get her going again, is to allow her to either give her a very large amount of sea so that she can sail off into the distance, because she will, you can see this is just basically a two-board demo bit, so she can just disappear. Well, there she's completely disappeared into the horizon, depending on your setting, of course. There we are, off into the mist, and see the paddle wheels just turning slowly there. She's just doing that. But when she comes into harbour, what you should do is have her stop at some distance. There were very few harbours that she could use that were big enough to take her in the 1850s until the 1900. And so the normal arrangement was that she would stop, she'd anchor, and then smaller boats would come up from the shore and pick up passengers and freight and that sort of thing. That was how she was designed. Brunel did design her to carry a couple of steamship sort of lighters, just about where these lifeboats are placed, these front ones. You can see it's very basic detail, and they were going to be lowered down, so she would carry her own lighters and they would carry her around to the passengers down back to the shore. So there we are, that's the Great Eastern, SS Great Eastern, steamship Great Eastern by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the biggest ship in the world from her launch until the Lusitania was launched about 50-60 years later. And although she wasn't successfully employed on the passenger services, she did eventually prove her worth as a cable layer. And before she drops off the end of the world, I'm going to stop her. And she laid the first successful transatlantic cable, the one that survived. In fact, the first one that she laid, which broke, she went back the following year and found it while laying a replacement, and she laid it and grappled the original one and reconnected that. So in fact there were two cables laid by her to Heart's Content Bay in Canada, but I'll come on to that. I'm going to do a video of the history of the Great Eastern, so I'll post it on YouTube before too long, just a day or two away at least. But those will be single static shots, and 2 shots of of my model of her. So there we are. She's proved quite problematic to get in. I just don't know what this situation is with the reflection from the water, and it's only really working for the paddle wheels. This shadow, is automatically generated in Trainz, but the reflection of the type that we get from these ships, you can see there, the reflection in the water just doesn't seem to work for her. I've tried everything. I've tried stripping down the polys even more. I've tried altering. I tried dumping stuff into the bogey. That made it worse. As I say, I replaced all the lifeboats, which were really quite sort of neat, smooth attachments, but I've now replaced those with very basic boxes, although the texturing isn't too bad. It looks alright. It's a lifeboat, you can see along there, look. Okay, and the davits are very basic, but again, so the idea is, and I hope you find that this model for the Great Eastern, it's not trying to be brilliantly precise, because some of the measurements are very putative, very doubtful. I couldn't pin them down, and so it's to capture the essence of the Great Eastern. Right, okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. This should be released sometime in about, well, hopefully at my next website update, which is usually about the end of the month, beginning of March. And I should include her on that, so long as the beta testing goes okay. And from this, there will also be a static version, and I'll release a separate video of the static version just to give you an idea of what I'm going to release. So there we are, Great Eastern. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please leave a comment, please give me a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, ING4 Trainz. Every subscriber is very I really value all the subscribers, so it means you get, I think if you wish to, you can sign up to get email notifications when I put another video up, but I don't know who you are. There's no list, I can't access a list or anything. So there we are, something to really seriously think about adding to a Victorian coastal port harbour layout, or just off the coast, steaming away in the distance. Great Eastern, a genuine 1850s steam paddle wheel, propeller and sail steamship by the most brilliant of all Victorian engineers, the wonderful Isambard Kingdom Brunel.